Welcome. This is Kryeziu, a fantastic composer based in Berlin, now at the moment teaching in Basel. I'm following her work for some time now, and it's really wide range, also music theater, electronic things, also instrumental, but also like Katharina in her very own way, and also maybe a little similarity, but you're also both in a unique way, but you're also on stage with your music, but not like contemporary music or classical music status, but I'm sure you will tell maybe also about that, so I'm happy that you're here.
So hello everyone, so nice to be here, and I'm so happy to follow up Katharina Kryeziu, a fantastic colleague that I really look up to. And I'm also happy to continue the topic, actually, because, as Sarah already mentioned, we don't fall so wide away from one another in the way of thinking. But nevertheless, I will be concentrating in these aspects of multitudes in artistic creation, but rather from the scope of intermediality. I am primarily an instrumental, acoustically instrumental, acoustically trained composer, and I started as a pianist, as a classical pianist, and I spent my entire childhood, or maybe I didn't spend it, but I gave it willingly to the instrument for many years, and until I decided that that is not the way I want to continue my artistic practice. And then early on I was in parallel studying also composition. At some point I decided to kind of really split from that world and concentrate into being a composer and an intermedial artist, because I realized that for me creating works, it's a process that comes together in multiple ways. It comes first of all from a desire or an interest in particular concepts, and then the articulation of this concept will unfold in visual way, in audiovisual way, or only in acoustic way. So as a result, I have until now a body of work that is a bit fragmented. It's not this stamp of an artist that has this really clear one way of doing things, but I am known for sometimes doing concert pieces for acoustic ensembles, or I have electro-acoustic compositions, multimedial compositions, and big format intermedial works, which tend to be kind of my thing, or the space where I feel the most free, or myself. So I named my lecture, wow, this white noise is kind of, it's a good background for my voice. So I named my lecture Composing in Multilayers, and with this aspect of composing in multilayers, I want to describe multilayers in the sense of the material and the approaches in my composition. So with multilayers, I mean that in my works there is a heterogeneity of material. There is intermediality, composed spatiality, sculptural projection, and electro-acoustic instrumentation. And in that sense, electro-acoustic instrumentation, it is very multi-layered in its own way. And in this sense, in my works, conceptual frameworks and abstract frameworks coexist. So I have a very strong beginning conceptually, but my works do not run from a conceptual motor. They are not pointers to a specific concept, but they coexist. They present a conceptual layer, but at the same time, there is an abstract framework of the music itself. So the musical parameters will have their own autonomy to develop formally, sonically, but always vertically touching points and kind of interlocking with the concept. And this is then how I arrived to this so-called interlocked intermediality, for the lack of a better term. I'm still researching and thinking on how can I describe it better, but until now I have arrived to this term, interlocked intermediality. And with this I mean that I create works of, as I said, multiple layers. There's the conceptual layer, there's the visual layer, there's the musical layer. And they are very tightly interwoven together. I will explain better later how is this interlocking taking place. But at the same time, as I said, although they are interlocked, they should have also the freedom in their own layer, or their own autonomy, and function as their own medium. So following this approach of interlocked intermediality, I end up with formats that lay in between. So I like to create works that have music, theatrical, installative elements, but at the same time, if they are installative, I have a strong necessity to have a very very closely observed formal development. Then even though it is a free installation, it will have a formal arch, it will have a good, it's not qualitative, it's just a way, it will have a development. The processes that I follow to create such works, so how do you do these kind of works? I like to think of that as having all these parameters, all these layers, not just thinking of it formally as a material, but also in my compositional process. I am starting composing the music, but I'm also creating at the same time the text or the visual elements and the conceptual elements, and I'm switching lanes all the time while composing and creating all these parameters. And as a result, then, when I construct these forms, I try to calibrate these layers and to see when does one come in the background, when does the other come in the foreground, and when do I give the space to one layer, one media, and the other, in order to achieve this interlocked intermediality, but also to leave some autonomy of the media on their own. So the interlocked intermediality in my works takes place not in all the body of my works, because as I said, sometimes I just like to concentrate in acoustic music and present a concert piece, because I strongly believe that there is space for everything, and I feel comfortable to occupy different spaces or inhabit different spaces. And the interlocked intermediality in my works is, as I said, tightly interwoven. There's the calibration of media, and examples of the works are like Tilde, which is an immersive concert installation, which I will specifically talk about today. There is the intermedial piece co from Latin, so kind of co, bringing together, for video and ensemble. The Face of the Other, which is a big compilation of many pieces constructed together as a music theatrical piece, where the audience is guided, but the audience is guided through my composition. A Persona, which is an opera and is the only work that is not entirely done by me, but it comes as a collaboration with the director and in the common opera sense. But there as well, there are some aspects of intermediality that have taken place in my way of composing for music and text. And then Land, große Reise in entgegengesetzter Richtung, etc. So just looking at it a bit theoretically, at intermediality, I researched intermediality in theoretical sense from the framework of media studies, because in media studies I find a little bit more freedom to see intermediality theoretically, because it presents the chance to see the media not only as means in themselves, but media in dialogue with historical and sociopolitical aspects, media as in relation to individuals, and media as as technology as well. So intermediality is just an umbrella term. It's really widely approached by the authors and scholars that I'm mentioning here. And for example, Johansson and Peterson, they coin this aspect of intermediality as, I'm just going to read it, media do more than just passively participate in culture, that is, have actual agency in interconnecting the specific cultural and historical domains of aesthetic, society, and technology. And this is a very important factor for me as well in my compositions, to not just observe the media and the materials that I use as means in themselves, but to kind of create a dialogue beyond that. And a very important scholar, Irina Rajewski, has coined three aspects of looking at media within intermediality, and she distincts media combinations, media transpositions, and intermedial references. But her take on this is very synoptic, so she takes a very, very wide view on this. She is meaning with media combinations entire genres such as opera, film, and with media transposition she is meaning the transposition from a book to a film, or to a play and then to theater. And with intermedial references she is meaning kind of an ekphrasis, kind of let's say a painting within a film referenced as a medium. But I like to take these taxonomies from Rajewski and employ them to look within my work itself. So what are the media combinations within the work? Which kind of media am I combining and how? The media transpositions, I'm looking at it in the sense of which parameters of one media do I transpose in another media. For example, the rhythm of the music being the motor of the rhythm of the lights in my piece, or the motor of the choreography of lights, or sound spatialization as a choreography of positioning the lights, or textual rhythm as a material for musical rhythm. And intermedial references, I like to approach that as referring the media within the piece. For example, in my piece Tilde that I will show later, there are some sound sculptures that I have employed in my piece, and then I refer these media in the video. So I do this intermedial reference then in this way. And then there is another author that has a formalist approach on intermediality, and I like this very much because he views intermediality as a process, as a transformation. So transformations are operative forms of this difference in the transition from one form to another, whereby the preceding form is made into the medium of the following one. In this, what he means is, for example, the photography being the precursor of film. So we have a medium that becomes a form that becomes a medium of the following medium. Thank God. Wow. Again. So this was so nice. Okay. Wow. Wow, now I can really breathe. And this transformation in my processes would be, the sculptural object becoming a video, text becoming music, and music becoming lights. But I'm speaking now about parameters. Yes, so Tilde is an immersive intermedial format. The media combinations that take place in this piece are music, lights, objects, video, text, archives, and spatiality. It is a thoroughly composed piece, so it's a 1 hour piece, strictly composed, but it is immersive in nature because it is positioned, choreographed, and positioned in the space very strictly. I have a pattern measured always for each room that I create this piece. I have the light objects that I've built specifically to enclose the musicians, and I have these sound sculptures that you can see that are subwoofers filled with water. I work with video. In the video there are archives of Ensemble Modern and text that I've written that come in a format of stream of consciousness. And the aspect of spatiality is the core idea, probably, because the audience goes within, is immersed in this piece. They can move freely, they can sit, they can lay down, and they can change positions at any point, and they can also choose the proximity to the sound sources. So it lies in between linear concert form of music because it's strictly composed. At the same time, it's open format because of the audience participation, and in this way, by choosing the proximity to sound, they can alter also what they see and what they hear. And there is something in between the linearity and the openness, which is the montage form of the video. So the video is not an ongoing film, but it kind of punctuates this music that kind of develops in its own logical level, and then the visuals and the light. So there is a big network of themes in this piece that all come together in this symbol of tilde. So tilde is this sign. And the meta themes are archives, memories, documentation, testimony, trauma, legacy, facts, history, archiving as a political act, the subjectivity of the archivist, and the manipulation of history by the archivists. Then there are process themes. I call them process themes. So comparing paths. So I was commissioned by Ensemble Modern for this piece in their 50th anniversary, and they opened their archives and they invited me to research the archives and create something. It was a carte blanche, so it didn't have to be closely related to archives, but I had a big desire to go and inspect every little element of those archives and kind of read a bit of the history. Like, can I see a bit of a socio-cultural history through this ensemble that have been around for such a long time and have seen some really important historical developments. And by doing that, I was checking every year. Oh, this year, what was I doing that year? I was born. I was in a war. I was with my family. We were refugees. It was the darkest time of my life. And then, it's the year where I started learning music for the first time. When I discovered piano music. So, in this, it kind of, I started researching Ensemble Modern and something more, but I ended up researching myself probably as well. And in this entirety, I was also then reflecting about archiving in the digital age. So us as post-internet archivists, ever-growing databases, us documenting so much and putting it out there, filing it all the time. And then there are some more poetic themes, more similitude themes, like seeing, hearing, remembering, our senses as filing devices. So if our brain is a database, then our senses are the filing devices. And So the sign tilde, alternating current, is also the symbol of electricity, alternating current. It looks like a sine tone, and then sound waves in light, sound waves in water. Then I have my sound sculptures. Sound waves in skin, because I use also the skin of Ensemble Moderne as a transmission membrane, and I put it in different ruins in the bodies of percussion. So yeah, this all together comes in this one sign. To refer again to the theoretical take on intermediality as coined by Irina Rajewski. So yeah, the media transitions in tilde. Here we have, for example, one of my sound sculptures. When I was composing the piece, I first created a big database for myself of how different frequencies look in water. So I just did a big library. How does it look 36 hertz, or with this much amplitude with a sine tone? How does it look with 9 hertz? And then I had all these like visual representation of beautiful patterns in water. And then when I was composing these sounds, the bass lines, sometimes I was deciding for particular sounds and then checking how do the patterns look. And then sometimes I didn't like it, and then I would reconsult again the sounds that I chose and change them for the pattern. But also the other way around. Sometimes I didn't like the sounds anymore, then I would change the pattern in the water. So this is what I mean also with the multi-layered processes in this kind of compositional processes. But at the same time also, yeah, you can see it's a very normal score, normally notated score. But when I was composing the rhythms, for example, I created a max patch that shows now in bird perspective the positioning of the lights, because this pattern was really important for me stage-wise. And then when I was composing the rhythms, I was immediately checking in my max patch simulation, how does it look like? Like, is this an interesting pattern visually? And then I was consulting both layers, so to say, changing the rhythm for the lights and changing the lights for the rhythm. So yeah, viewing it as a material, as an entirety, these are the media transitions in tilde. So we have thoroughly composed music for 1 hour. We have video that is very dense in the beginning, and then it gets a bit more rare, and then sometimes it disappears completely, where you have this white position there, and then it comes together again. The lights are connected to some musical parameter, but then they are coherent, always connected with this musical material. The objects, so they are very much active in the beginning and very much active in the end, and in the middle they don't play a role. And the text in video, this narration that I do, this stream of consciousness, is here and there. So it's just connecting sometimes, and sometimes it's only visuals. So it's a representation of the archives of Ensemble Moderne or some kind of other visual forms. Yes, I'm gonna start jumping a bit because I think I overdid my theoretical. Oh, sorry. I'm just gonna play now a little bit to give an example.
This is intermediate, this is grade 1.
Yes. The video you have in two sides of the room. Yeah, here and here in the big black box situation. So this is the very beginning, and later in the piece we have a bit other development. Sorry, once more. Yes, so it's a big piece. Just, so very, very small snippets that I cut out to just give a bit of an impression of it. So yeah, I spoke about the archival research, and in this piece I feature one of the raw materials of the archives when Ensemble Modern went to the DDR, and their program note got confiscated because it spoke of the leading German ensemble, and this term German was not pointed as problematic to be named as. So that was confiscated, and I thought that was an interesting way to have this open window in history through this artifact, such a normal artifact in our time, a program note. And I also do some kind of archiving in real time. So each year that I did this piece, I'm researching how many terabytes of data are created each day in every year. So the number changed. So in 2023 it's 328 million, and then it gets in 2024 402 million, and 2025 was 495 million. So I'm also kind of documenting in real time what massive amount of data are we all collecting. As I said, spatiality is very important for me, and in the reiteration plans I started here in the first performance in Zentralstation in Darmstadt. This was the planning, and it's very important for me in this piece to have very strict distances, and to kind of match it also for the room that it's in. So it needs a little bit of changes each time, but nonetheless I can always keep the choreography of form that I did and the choreography of lights. And so just going a bit further in other works of mine, the spatial aspects are really important because I always think of space as one of the parameters of my work. So it's just like saying, I have my instruments, my ways of thinking in sound, and space then is also just one of them. And I'm always first deciding about the setting. And if it's a concert form, then it's a concert form. And if it's a frontal projection, that's okay. If it's a stereo panorama, that's also one way to look at it. But I very much enjoy thinking of these immersive setups being, even if it's only quadraphonic, it's then another way for me to think of the form of the sound, of the entirety of the elements. Or when I work with 3D audio setups, when I have the luxury sometimes, then it also puts me in other processes of thinking about music or art in general. And I look at sound sources also very often as sculptural entities. So in Tilde itself, I play with that because I let also the audience approach the sound sources by proximity, and they can also decide a bit on that. But sometimes I'm also composing spatially the movement of the audience. So in Tilde, I'm playing a little bit with that. So I'm kind of composing the movement of the audience by changing the video projection. So we have two big videos, and sometimes I'm activating one side, and sometimes I shut that down. I activate the other one, and in this way I can shift the crowd. And I've seen that in the second and third iteration that worked very well when I employed this shifting, because then suddenly the audience was interacting with this other part of the space, and then I changed it again, and then they interact with that part, and sometimes it's both of them. But in other works, I layer the spatiality of sound in different ways. For example, in my opera Persona, we could perform this in Gare du Nord, which is a smaller space. It's an experimental music space, but it has a multi-channel setup. So sometimes I work just with frontal audio, and sometimes I work with frontal audio, but having also some instruments, some objects in space that would project kind of another quality of sound that had more of this sculptural aspect to it. And sometimes I would use the entire multi-channel setup for pieces that were, for example, that I composed then electro-acoustically for 26 channels, and then I played with that. I played with that as a dramaturgical means as well. And sometimes I let that go and I just use the frontal projection as a tool. How much time? I'm a bit lost. We started 10 minutes later, right? So I can go on.
15 minutes.
15. Ah, okay, good. So, Yeah, so in Persona, this was a very close collaboration. It's not the kind of intermediality that I do in Tilde, where I am kind of the creator of all the parameters. But here it is a normal collaboration in operatic sense. So there was the director Caterina Ciaparini and the scenographer Eva Boan, which did this amazing scenography, the costume designer, and everyone else. So, but here the intermedial thinking kind of took place in the way I worked with text, because we had the text coming from the film Persona of Ingmar Bergman, and I wanted to be very careful how I bring the singing in a material that comes from film. I had like big respect about it, and I thought it was an interesting question. How do I bring the singing here? So I took the dialogue, a spoken dialogue from the singer, and I kind of created a feedback loop between re-recording it and so the Alvin Lucier approach, kind of multiple layers of the same sound material. But then I took this multiple layers and I play them in reverse. So we we go in the opera, the audience comes in, the music is already playing, and there's this cloud of feedbacked voices that then I take slowly away, and it becomes clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer until from this nebulous sound we start actually hearing language for the first time. And after this scene I bring another scene where there is singing for the first time, but I wanted the singing to be kind of coming as an act of boredom. So they are having she's having the first monologue in spoken language, and then the singing lines are kind of staged as kind of being bored and kind of filling the awkward silence with her humming and singing, which then takes more and more body throughout the opera. But of course this was only possible because we matched in the idea with the director. So yeah, and especially the piece first starts in multi-channel, and I'm specializing live the layers, of course, that we won't hear right now, but the audience comes and hears these kind of wandering layers of nebulous sounds, and when the language comes for the first time, it also is coming from different directions in space. And then the first aria, then we have a very frontal situation. I'm going to play a little bit.
Guten Tag, Frau Vogler. Ich bin Schwester Alma und werde mich in nächster Zeit um Sie kümmern.
So that's the idea from this text that we already hear in this nebula. Then it comes crystallized in the real world. Then a little bit of this aria where the singing comes for the first time.
Es gibt vieles an mir, womit ich nicht ganz einverstanden bin. Bei meiner Arbeit fühle ich mich ziemlich wohl. Schon seit meiner Kindheit wollte ich nichts anderes werden. Am liebsten wäre ich OP-Schwester. Im Frühling mache ich einen Kurs.
Another example, I took some of the parts we agreed with the director that we would have a lot of spoken text, and here I wanted to work a little bit with the language as a musical material and with the space itself. So I employed a live electronics process where the transients, so the consonants of the speech, are taken out in real time, and only the consonants of the language are being sent to some objects with transducers in space, and they are being also granulated. So for example, when she says tish, then it goes like tish, and then you hear also the coloring of these consonants through these objects in space, and also the spatializations of them. And the great thing is that it was in German, so we had enough consonants. It was really crunchy. So
Sie schauen zu sehr, sagte ich zu Katharina. Lass sie gucken, meinte sie und legt sich auf den Rücken. Ich kam mir ganz merkwürdig vor. Die ganze Zeit wollte ich mir den Bademantel von oben holen, bin aber auf dem Bauch liegen geblieben, ganz ungeniert, irgendwie ganz ruhig. Katharina lag ganz still und kicherte heimlich ein bisschen.
And yeah, for this rawness of material, also in the instrumental work, I approached it with in this section with the rawest sounds I could find. So it's a lot of contact mic'd instruments, a little bit reminiscent to the aspects of holophony. A lot of objects that we found together with the percussionists, some really raw metallic sounds, and electric guitar with bit crushed elements and some really crunchy distortion. So yeah, I thought that was fitting together with this transient material. Then in another scene, I am kind of using again this idea of transposing from one medium to the other. I'm taking the sentence, the spoken sentence live, putting it in the spatialization. It goes in a loop and it goes in the multi-channel system, and then it gets overtaken by this melody, this intonation melody of the sentence gets overtaken by the cello. So here.
dich wird es ja keine Kunst, dich und mich zu verwandeln. Stets ins Bett gehen, so schließt du mich an die Scheibe. Ich muss jetzt ins Bett gehen, sonst schlafe ich noch hier am Tisch ein.
So then it comes back actually. It's been a long time. Yeah, it goes from the voice to the multi-channel cloud. Then it comes back again to the performer. Then comes a scene that is very important for the plot. The moment that one of the characters
Hast du gestern Abend was zu mir gesagt?
finds the letter that was written, and it's kind of a moment of like a traitor moment. And
Warst du heute Nacht bei mir im Zimmer?
I'm just gonna jump. Yeah, so she finds the letter, and then I had this kind of necessity to interconnect a little bit the letter and bring it in a visual sense, and kind of employ a bit my intermedial thinking of rhythmicizing the letter but presenting it also visually. And then, yeah, in close collaboration with the team, we all agreed for this. So here's the letter then projected. Sorry. And the end of the opera, the last scene, I took the last word that is spoken by the character, which is, yeah, it's very important to know that this character, this performer here, on the left, she is silent during the entire opera. She never speaks, and only in the end she says one word, and that is nichts, so nothing. And I take this word then, after it's being said live, and I processed it in an old tape machine. So after recording it in an old magnetic tape machine, then I re-recorded the tape machine in itself, like about, I don't know, 50 times until the tape got completely destroyed. And then the recording of these artifacts is actually what we will hear sound-wise, all the artifacts of the medium itself being destroyed into nothingness. And then I specialized that in the multi-channel setup, and I liked it. Need to jump a bit because it's kind of a long scene. Yes, so that was also the sound of the magnetic tape itself. Yeah, I wanted to talk also a little bit of another work, The Face of the Other, which is a conglomeration of many works of mine on the topic of masks, identity, face as being the surface where the discrimination mostly is directed at. And in this work I'm drawing from glitch feminism, Legacy Russell, and I'm also inspired by Kobo Abe's The Face of Another. That's why also I play then with this title, The Face of the Other. And in this kind of work I'm kind of composing the space. The first piece start here with a cappella, with masks. Masks are also instruments, and the instrumentalists are activating these masks. Then it goes to another section very fluently. I've composed the transitions, so kind of the audience is being guided all the time in space by the music itself. So there's no person that leads them where to walk, but the activation of sound in space and the activation of the musicians guides them very naturally. So then it continues to a section here where, facing this way, a piece is being played. It continues with an installation, it continues with another piece in this section. Then a duo starts, and the duo is with flute solo and keyboard, and the flute is starting to play in this space, and while she is walking out, the audience is following her, and then we end up in this general space where we have the final piece. But it's a very difficult piece to document, so I'll just, I don't know, show a little bit, just a trailer, or maybe another time. Maybe we should continue with the questions. Yeah, okay, sorry. Let me try.
Both. Mask. Service. Face. The other. Mask. Face. Test the surface.
Sorry,
Face.
we'll jump a bit. Here. We were here.
Face. Test the surface. Surface. its surface. Thank you. This plastic looks great, doesn't it? That's really nice, thanks. How can you tell? Say that to the virtual assistants. That's nice of you to say.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah.
I'm not prepared, but I will try. You told a little bit about your childhood with piano. It resonates with me very, very much because it's the same history. But I'm just interested how you turn yourself to this way, how it happened, maybe practically, maybe who made biggest influence on you, because probably in childhood you couldn't imagine that you will do something like that, and how it happens in your life. A very simple biographical question, probably.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
All I know is that I'm sitting right now here. No, I mean, I was, I know it was kind of like a fleeting place, just music in general, and I was just obsessed with the instrument and with music and just with creative outlets and drawing and painting. So for me, it never was a big difference of what media. It was always kind of like creating something specific. But then I was heavily integrated in this music world, where then I had let's say a strict education in classical music, and then even like high school conservatory, everything was only music. But I always try to, I was also doing other kinds of music, kind of playing a little bit in bands, and I also produce other music that kind of goes beyond classical contemporary. So it was always kind of this need to create artworks, and trying to find then the language that the concept or the idea needs. And practically studying always on top of the instrument. I was all the time studying composition or kind of educating myself much more as a composer or generally as an artist, and kind of finding ways to learn the craft. Also technically, like for me it was very important to learn how to build things DIY, how to do electronics, because it's a bit of a control freak situation. I like to go in the details of things, and then learning gives you the freedom then to go in these details. I have the feeling, even though it's of course nicer to collaborate and outsource things, but it's nice to be able to think in multiple levels.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Yes, what was the most challenging in the opera in terms of collaboration, because it's completely different process, I think.
Yeah.
And for you, what was the most challenging in this kind of field? Is it was first like experience in this kind of collaboration, and how you feel collaborative process in your artistic practice?
Somehow it was not the first. I had some other collaborations in this sense. it's a matter of kind of creating space for the others and kind of like restricting yourself. So for me, it feels very often as a painful process, but not all pains are bad pains. One has to also think like that. I tend to think in this intermedial way, as you can all see. It always comes. My ideas come in packages, just like internet. But sometimes it's nice to say like, okay, I'm just gonna leave some space for someone else and do some compromises, and I don't know, kind of let yourself also change in that process a little bit. I have to say it's difficult for me, but it's sometimes a challenge that I like to take it, and especially with the right people, with the right collaborators, it's worth it. But it's much more stressful than kind of doing everything yourself. There's so much communication and so much like layers of communication that you have to do, first in the sense of ideas, concept, aesthetic, and then personal, and it gets emotionally complex as well. But I like it that way as well. It's just then for me something else. So then I also think, okay, my opera is just something else, and my other intermedial works are, they are my thing, and in this way I approach it, I have to say.
Who was from where comes this idea to make opera on the Bergman's film?
That was from the production and the direction of the festival, I think. Theater Opera Basel.
Invited composer.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were actually a team. They were a consolidated team from Theater Basel, and I was the invited composer.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
I'm just curious because I heard first natural voice and then processed voice. So I assumed it was quite restrict in a way that people understand the text and stuff, that you wasn't able very much to improvise with live effects directly to the voice or kind of the stuff. That's my question.
Yeah. So the parts that were very important text-wise, I faked the live processing, let's say. So I recorded with a singer in a way that I knew that she's really going to do it again like that live.
Okay.
So something that would be easy for her to repeat. But then there were some live processes that just worked live, like this whole processing of the consonants. I took the risk and it worked.
But it's still very hearable what she talks. I mean,
more
like
it's very
in
hearable.
terms that you kind of destroyed live a voice in a way that it's it's not her, because it's still attached her timbre to her body.
Yeah.
Always like we have this association.
Yeah.
So I just was curious. Did you thought to break this association with the things that she talks and we not recognize a timbre itself, and or it was more like restrict from the production side, let's say, like that you have some limitation in a way, like just my curious.
Are you talking about amplification now, or
amplification and what audience hear?
Yeah. Well, it's a bit difficult to say because every scene in the opera has different. It's always a different formula.
Okay.
So sometimes it's really almost not amplified at all. Then it's just the body speaking, and sometimes it's clearly tape. That is also just composed as tape, and then there are sometimes stages in between. So really live, a little bit amplified, but just frontally, and then coming from the multi-channel setup. But I was kind of playing with this detachment in this sense of space as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.